Today we will be speaking about the woman impact on zero energy buildings. Well, the energy might be going to zero in the buildings, but the energy of the woman will never be zero. So right now we are together with 3 women with wonderful projects in the field of energy efficiency. I will be introducing our guests to you, but let me introduce myself first. My name is Yasemin Salih. I am a journalist and I am writing articles in Dünya newspapers in Turkey. Without further ado, I'd like to continue with our guests. We have 3 very valuable women who have accomplished great things. Selen İnal, Züleyha Özcan, and Enise Burcu Derinboğaz will be with us in this session. Why did I mention to their academic background at the beginning of my speech? Well, most of the time there is such a prejudice that women should be integrated to the technical subjects more so that they will be much more visible in those fields. I'll introduce our guests to you in details, but when we say the woman impact in the energy sector, there are certain figures which proves our invisibility. So let's first see those statistics so that you can understand what those women explain and speak in here. The women representation in the business sector in general is 50%, but in the energy sector it is 25%. And in terms of the leadership in the energy sector, the women leadership is only 17%, 17. So Deloitte actually carried out a research and asked women whether they see a future in the energy sector, and 59% of the women said yes. And I also see that women are quite enthusiastic about this sector, and most probably the employers also feel that energy, but when the women try to climb the stairs, unfortunately this is not the case. So let me introduce my valuable speakers to all of you. Let me start with Ms. Züleyha Özcan. She graduated from machine engineering in Gazi University, and she worked in 2 private companies in the field that she was graduated from. In 2004, she asked herself, why I do not do my profession, and then she founded her company, which is called Derin Mekanik and Mühendislik, and then she continued her career as the boss of her company. Miss Züleyha, I do believe, has participated in many NGOs for making women visible in this field. She is a member of Turkish Chamber of Commerce, and she is one of the co-founders of MÜKAD, Women Engineers Association, and if I'm not mistaken, she is the vice president of the same association. My second guest is Selen İnal. She is the business development manager of TurSEFF. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but TurSEFF is providing finance for innovative projects. And this body makes women much more visible by providing loans and credits to women entrepreneurs. Ms. Selen has the experience of 19 years in this sector. As I told you, she is the business development manager of TurSEFF. And TurSEFF, which is a program of EBRD, is also supported by the European Union. As I told you, she is a mechanical engineer, and after her graduation, she went to Germany for her MA degree, and she is one of the first experts, not only among women, but also among men. She is one of the, the oldest experts in the field, although she is quite a young lady. So Miss Selen is also member of many Turkish and international NGOs, and she has been working in order to make women more visible in this field. Enise Burcu Derinboğaz is a landscape architect, a very young colleague of us, but she works with a high level of energy and very well established her place in the sector. She graduated from Istanbul Technical University in between 2002 and 2003. She was in Tokyo University. In 2015 and 2016, she was in Vienna for her career. Between 2010 and 2017, she worked as the editor of Innovative Architecture journal. In that regard, she can be defined as my colleague as well. She has many awards in different fields. She participated in many international contests, and she represented the Turkey and Turkish women, and she is an entrepreneur as well. At the beginning of our speech, let's discuss why women are not that visible in this sector. I'll ask those questions to three of our speakers, and then I'll ask questions about their expertise, and then I will render and deliver the questions of our participants. Once again, hello to all our guests. So what I would like to learn from you is to share your experience. When I say your experience, please share your experience in terms of the challenges and the bottlenecks that you have come across with, and how did you overcome those barriers, and what were your motivational resources? Let's start with Ms. Züleyha. Hello to everyone. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this nice and kind introduction, Ms. Yasemin. In energy sector, of course, the number of the women is not more than the fingers of a hand. But at the beginning of the university years, I realized how certain jobs are distributed between men and women. And I always wanted to become an engineer, but I didn't have a special choice, like, reading and studying the mechanical engineering. But when I understood that I will study the mechanical engineering, people criticized me rather than congratulating me. And I do believe the reason why we are discussing those issues are due to our social prejudices. Of course, back then I was 17 years old, and I even thought that it was the wrong choice. I shouldn't have chosen. And people said that you can take the university exam, don't worry, you shouldn't be studying the mechanical engineering. But then I started studying the mechanical engineering, and we were two ladies only. And this was the second shock for me. And I wondered why other ladies didn't want to study mechanical engineering. But after I started studying my department, the whole environment actually satisfied me, and I love my job, and actually I love working in my field. Of course, when you are one of the few in the department, then your visibility increases. I mean, the name of the other people, the men, might be confused, but when you are two ladies only in the department, nobody forgets your name. So people are much more meticulous when they are, treating you. Because if you are few, it means that you are more valuable. And on that regard, I was supported a lot by my colleagues and by my peers, and I would like to thank them for sure. And we also know that the women employment is quite low in many sectors. This is a social problem. Well, there are many handicaps in front of the women even before they are being employed. This is the case for women engineers. Many questions which are not raised for the male candidates are asked for the women candidates because, generally the responsibilities of the family and the children are always on the shoulders of the woman. That's why they are asking whether we are married, whether we are engaged, if we are married, whether we are planning to have kids or not. So such kind of personal life questions are being raised for your future. It doesn't matter whether you are well educated and whether you will be applying for a senior management position. You are chosen and preferred less with a comparison to your male counterparts. And of course, there are very institutionalized big companies in the energy sector, and they are attaching significant importance for increasing the number of women employed in those companies. And they are putting lots of efforts and endeavors on that purpose. But we also know that the Turkish economy is comprised mainly of SMEs. When we say small and medium-scale enterprises, we mean companies with less number of employees, since those companies cannot employ many employees. They are thinking much more meticulously where they can make use of their women employees, and they are afraid of women employees because when women are becoming pregnant, they fear that they will lose one of their key employees. That's why the women are employed only in the more trivial departments like sales and etc. So this is one of the handicaps that we face with. And the third handicap is when we are trying to climb the stairs of our career. When women started working, I have to say that they are much more loyal to their enterprises where they work. They are much more productive and they do much more sacrifices. So if the women work in a peaceful environment, it doesn't matter whether you promise her more or not, they will prefer not to change their working environment. As long as they are working in a safe and peaceful environment, the woman will choose to stay there. But due to their way of being raised, men are much more entrepreneurs and they are much more aggressive when it comes to changing their jobs. But women tend to stay in their workplaces. But of course, after women having child, then all of a sudden we see a certain level of interruptions in their careers. And at that moment, after having a child, women takes a decision of changing their trajectories in their careers. Well, apologies. What kind of a turning point did you have before you founded your own company? Because I felt as if something happened. Yes, this was the case for me, actually. I have been working one of the strongest companies in the sector, and I have learned great things in this company, and I was very satisfied. But after becoming mother, certain attitudes towards me changed my opinion, and I have taken this decision of change obligatorily. Well, I'm a mechanical engineer. I, didn't have the plan of being the woman employer in this sector, the only one. But at the end of the day, I am very happy because after all, I'm doing my profession, and the previous company working culture actually nurtured me a lot. So I am, trying to approach the past from the positive side of it. I am very happy that I founded my own business, but this may not be the case for everyone. Everyone may not be willing to found their own business. They might, have a different perspective. Again, I have many friends who have been working in such institutionalized big companies. They even became managers, but although they can actually go one step further and comes to a senior position, they actually took the decision of leaving their company. So you say that the first most important impact of changing your decision was becoming mother. Exactly, because the responsibilities of raising a child and a family is on the shoulders of the woman. After you become mother, also the perception of the company towards you changes as well. It doesn't matter how well they know you. It doesn't matter how productive and hardworking you are. A company all of a sudden thinks that, your mind is not at the office. So they believe that you cannot concentrate, and you, of course, feel that perception against you, and you have to take a decision of changing your position. But they have no idea how many things you can think simultaneously. Absolutely. Okay, let's stop here for a while. I will ask the same question to Miss Selen. I do believe you didn't try out a different sector. You started your journey with the energy sector. So you are one of the few people who have experienced this sector from scratch. What kind of difficulties and barriers have you encountered? Did you hear criticisms like, why did you participate in this sector? Couldn't you do something else? Well, at the beginning, I didn't see such kind of criticisms. I actually received positive feedbacks. From the primary school to the end of the university, I actually, studied in very important schools, and many of my friends actually have chosen the same department. Istanbul Technical University, for example, my department has 50% of ladies. But it's not about social discrimination. As ladies and boys, we entered the university exams, and based on our decision, we actually started studying in those departments. In my master's degree during Germany, this was the case as well. For the first 6 and 7 years, in addition to the obstacles and barriers that every person encounters, I didn't actually experience any other obstacles which are unique to women. And as a business development manager at the age of 30, I quit my job, and I had important success story in my previous job, but I couldn't find a job, a vacancy for a while. It was like a cold shower for me, because when I was doing my master's degree in Germany, the liberalization of the economy had just started to take place in Turkey. So I was applying to many companies, but unfortunately I was receiving no feedbacks. And you have no idea what will be the result after you apply for a job, because they gave you no positive or negative feedbacks. I applied to the European office of the global companies. They referred my name to the Turkish offices, but at the end of the day, nothing fruitful comes out. And this was a huge barrier, an obstacle for me. I was almost going to give up, but I was persistent in order to stay in the game, because I know that I was good. And I tried to define myself rather than letting others define me. I couldn't find a job, but I wanted to stay in the sector. And I started asking myself this question: what can I do? So I tried to differentiate myself from the others so that I can be employed. I focused on my strengths, and for 6 years I have worked as a consultant to international companies, and being meticulous and having the communicational skills actually brought along certain advantages for me. Well, my consultancy job was paying quite well, but as you know, after 2015 coup d'etat attempt, the foreigners kind of lost their interests in Turkey in terms of the economic investment. So I have to seek for another job. Well, as a woman in the energy sector, I have been one of the entrepreneurs who actually succeeded. I quit my job as the business development manager when I actually started working as an entrepreneur, but right now I am still working as a business development manager. So when it comes to the woman, there is a glass ceiling. I mean, if I were a man, I would become the CEO, but it doesn't matter. There are developments, and it feels as if I overcame many obstacles, and I think that my pathway for improvement in my career is quite open, so I can crack this glass ceiling. Enise, hello to everyone. Well, I do believe landscape architecture is one of the fields in which women are much more visible. Do you think so? Yes, absolutely right. So you are one of the luckiest ones. What kind of obstacles and barriers did you encounter? And since we are speaking about the gender equality, did you have any experience in terms of the discrimination in the work environment that you have been? Of course. I was graduated from Istanbul Technical University in the Department of Landscape Architecture. So I know the population ratio, the gender ratio in the mechanical engineering or electricity engineering departments. Well, we had the, quite unsimilar situation, but landscape architecture is a much more, feminine department. At least it is perceived as such, and I have no idea the reason behind it. I'm not sure whether working with the natural materials can create such a perception, or I don't know. Maybe colors have to do something with it, and I have been questioning it for the first time. But anyway, the landscape architecture doesn't have many women entrepreneurs. So when we take a glimpse at the work offices, we will still see that men take the front row. I do believe my screen has frozen. Okay, no problem. Right now we can hear you and we can see you. So there is a freezing problem with the connection. So anyhow, since the women entrepreneurs are low in number, was quite discouraging, because as a person who established her business at the beginning of her career, I do believe there is a problem with the internet connection. So let's go back to Enise later on so she can solve her problem. Maybe it's a regional problem, because internet became an integral part of our daily lives. That's why the internet connections might be quite problematic. Well, I can hear you, but I do believe I lose connection from time to time, so I would like to apologize. Actually, my internet connection should have been much more stable, but if you like, well, we can hear you and see you. If you like, you can continue. It's up to you. Well, I was speaking about the least number of women entrepreneurs in the landscape architecture. I founded my business at a very early age. So I actually won a competition, which was, motivating me a lot. And our team was the only team which had a woman head. Well, we can speak about the same thing for the construction sector, rather than focusing on the landscape architecture, because we are working with the municipalities, ministries, so the public side in a nutshell. I can also say that there has been many unfortunate experiences, so they didn't take me seriously. Maybe it has nothing to do with being a woman, but being a young person. But I never gave up. I still encountered with certain difficulties. They are not making an eye contact with me, so they are interrupting me, and they're not even listening to what I have to say. I still experience such unfortunate events, but the biggest difficulties bring along after becoming a mother, because a professional should be able to express her professionalism. Although I never stopped working hard, people all of a sudden has the perception that you became a mother right now, you cannot work efficiently, you have to pause a little bit. Well, at that moment, I was, thinking like having a 5 months or 6 months of vacation, because I was working day and night. So I had the biggest difficulties after becoming a mother. That's what I can say. And at the same time, since we have been cooperating with the public side, the dynamics were quite different than the private sector. So, dictating your words and your ideas is quite troublesome for the public side. But I'm never kneeled down, and I actually accepted the rules of the game. So I'll never give up. So it is one of the barriers and obstacles that we have to overcome as women. Yes, landscape architecture is a female-dominated environment, but as a part of the construction sector, we still work in an environment which is dominated by men. There is such kind of a dilemma. I have no idea why this is the case. Maybe we can discuss this in the second round. Thank you so much. So when we approach this issue from the perspective of the journalist, the issues with regards to gender equality has the news value in the past, and even today it has. The success story of a woman has the value of being a news 20 years ago and even today. But many technologies that we learned 20 years ago are old-fashioned right now. They are not even existed in our daily lives. Well, so many things are advancing so fast. Why couldn't we overcome this problem, and why the whole globe is resisting it? Maybe, as women and men are embracing that prejudices, but there is actually such a reason behind it, which is quite concrete.
let me share a story with you. There's an NGO working for visibility of women in business world, and there was a change of seat. And I asked a question to the new president, and about her dreams. Normally the economy journalists receive great answers to questions like that, and that lady told me that when I leave, this association should turn itself down, because we wouldn't have the need for an association that promotes visibility of women in business world. So why do we have to promote this through associations? So maybe we need a climate that we wouldn't need something like that. So this is what she mentioned, and it is perfectly correct. A leader saying that I should leave this association, turning it down. That is the idea behind it. So, dear friends, why do you think? This why is a very broad parenthesis, but why do you think we don't have gender inequality in the world? Why it is newsworthy, and why are we still talking about glass ceilings? The answer to this question has to do with the perception of gender equality, rather the lack of this perception. When we say gender equality, we're talking about equality in the roles that men and women take in the society. And in this regard, we have a long way to go. And at very early ages, we need to start the education about that, both for girls and boys, and this should be a part of the education. So the perception of gender equality, I believe, is very important. Half of the country is men, the other half is women, and looking at the statistics of TWRE, women labor force is 29%, and it is more than 60 for men. So 57% of women, if the woman is not graduated from a university, it is just 27%. So women participation to labor force it just goes through a university education, high school and lower education. Women are employed in service sector as cheap labor. So we are limited in number as women entrepreneurs. And we have actually, compared to Europe, we have more women in the management level, so at the executive level. So when we bring about gender equality, we're talking about a huge woman population that is unemployed. Women sit at their homes. So developed countries create policies to promote gender equality, and as they succeed in that, women enter labor force, and this basically contributes to economy as well. So when we carry out gender equality, we would basically have this potential sitting at home in the labor force. So we will have more employment, we'll have better welfare, and we will have economic development. And it's not just in economic sense. With the woman's entry to labor force, the number of child that woman gives birth decreases, but the child death also decreases as well. So most of the income that women earn are spent on the education and health of the children. So a working woman invest in the future of the children and contributes to their future. So if we remove the barriers in front of the woman, in front of the gender equality, if we get women involved in active labor force, we'll get better service, we'll have better educated individuals. So this is, we are not at the desired level on these issues in Turkey. So the reason that we're not getting over these barriers is that we have the inequality of opportunity. So we have to create this opportunity first, and we have to remove the barriers in front of the girls. Thank you very much, Züleyha. Selen, let's move on with you. You know, like women are homemakers, you know, babies are grown by mothers, and basic training is provided by mother. So everything is, you know, under the responsibility of women. So there is this glass ceiling, but the root cause of the issue is more, maybe situated in a deeper place. Of course, these gender roles that you mentioned, they have an effect, definitely, and they are established in our subconscious. So it's not just in the subconscious of men, it's also in the subconscious of a woman as well. We do self-sabotaging from time to time. We have two reasons for the absence of women in the energy sector. The first thing is it is math-based, you know, electricity, mechanical, and civil engineering are giving most labor force, and girls are not really choosing these departments. So, and some women, well, they have to quit their careers at a certain phase of their path. So in mathematical terms, we are minority, and we get even less as we climb up in the hierarchy, because you know you don't have the power to change the structure, and this structure basically disregards the needs of women, and it pushes women outside the system or to the periphery of the system. You know, the traditional system is, I call it the old system. You know, many companies are in this. You know, before the liberalization, you know, labor force was basically mostly controlled by the government, and politics was a part of that. It was something global. It's not just for Turkey. So men have more reason not to lose their power to women in this in a picture like that. And in this sector, sometimes women do not feel comfortable, and they don't want to move on because they don't feel comfortable with renewable energy. You know, the distributed production and on-site production. These are the recent concepts. So energy production is being more dispersed at the base level, and this is basically more acceptable by women. But for SMEs entering the sector, the transformation, I say, has started. So I'm positive about the future. Looking into the statistics, women have better places in renewable energy compared to traditional energy. This we will talk about. You know, it's just it goes by its name. You know, when say clean energy, well, it is about women. Enise, I'd like to move on with you. Are you with us? Enise, hello. I think there's a problem with the connection. Selen, I'd like to get back to you here at this moment. As energy gets more clean, what is going to be the role that women will play? You know, we created a logic here. Of course, there is this sensitivity, and we have the 360 degrees perspective, but how are we going to persuade men, and how are we going to increase the weight of women in renewable energy? I'd like to ask you this: the executives in renewable energy, are they the same people with the traditional energy sector bosses, executives? Are they the same people, or what basically is the difference? How do we see the difference? Let me give you examples from Turkey. Wind energy has a bigger capacity, but the solar energy works in the distributed system and works through small capacities. So compare that with the investment in energy sector. You know, we can just go set up a solar system on the rooftops of our homes. Factories do establish systems like that as well. So as this is the case, the solar energy is kind of a small business for large companies, and they didn't enter the sector. And as they didn't enter the sector, they didn't inject their established mindsets. So in the renewable energy, we have younger and newer players within this sector. Of course, there are less than ideal situations, but as it gets ever more established, it is in a better position now. So we have a different profile here at the renewable sector. So the first comers care about environment issues, carbon issues, and they have a philosophical perspective as well. And you know, at the beginning, solar energy did not have a high level of efficiency, so they entered the sector because they wanted to do so. It is the same for men and women, by the way. So when it is men, the executives of the sector, they are more innovative, and they have a different vision, and they have a more collaborative perspective in terms of working with women and the issues of women. And let me talk about the situation in Europe. You know, in the last year, there's an intensely discussed issue. It is called Green New Order. So they focus on renewable energy and environment issues, and a huge amount of incentives would be provided for this sector. So when we look into the woman that leads the sector, you would see a couple very strong women. One of them is Angela Merkel, and there's Ursula, the president of European Commission, and there's the CEO of Solar Europe. Well, we didn't used to see figures like that, but in these new policies, women can come to certain positions, and this is promising for both the world and Turkey. Enise, welcome back. Hello again. Hello. Let's move on with your sector. In the field that you are active, you know, women, you know, in the construction sector, it is a male-dominated sector, and you evaluated it in connection with that. And we were talking about, you know, increasing the burden that women carry. Is this a deliberate act to increase the responsibilities of women? So, you know, sometimes they say, okay, your real responsibilities lie here, and then if you have extra time, you move on in the business sector. So can this be regarded as an underlying reason? Yes, there is a sanction like that, and it really discourages. So if you're not really determined, you can give up very easily. I certainly agree with what Züleyha and Selen said, but I'd like to also underline that my mom was a housewife, and I never thought about not working. So this basically was a life purpose for me. So it's a part of existence for me. So once I have a discouragement like that, I wouldn't back down. But not everyone is in the same position. Not every family teaches you like that, I know. But despite all that, you know, standing on the own feet, well, it's not really easy in the business life, and a lot of women just they back down. This vicious cycle could be broken only through education. A woman that knows her role, you know, his attitude in the business life, it would be different from a man who would just, you know, enter the labor force. Well, they wouldn't really go through the same processes. So we should basically motivate girls like that. Boy or girl, you know, we have to teach them the same thing. So we're talking about, I was just about to talk about the new generation. So you just gave me a good transition. So we lived these things. We've been through all these. So should we basically say that the new generation should also go through the same processes, and you know, they would find their own way? This is the kind of mindset that we inherited from our ancestors. So I believe we should pave the way for the young generation. So I'd like to ask you a question. So someone comes to your workspace. What do you tell them? How do you encourage them? You know, when they become mothers, when they face difficulties, when they just, you know, confine themselves in the toilets and cry, how do you motivate them? Züleyha, the mic is yours. This is very important. I am in the mechanical fitting sector. We are in the construction and energy sector as well. They're interlinked sectors, and for a long time, as we were few in number, you know, we used to get together as women. We used to get together in, you know, lunch and dinners, and we used to, you know, talk about our problems. So we decided to make these gatherings into something beneficial. So we are having all these problems, you know. So let's create a utility out of that and guide those newcomers just like us. And in 2018, as a group of women, we founded MÜKAD. And this basically, there are girls, women students, female students who come to my workplace, and I am happy to see them as interns, and I'd like them to apply to my company as interns as well, because I'd like to show them that this is doable. If you are determined, everything is doable. We shouldn't back down from difficulties. And yes, we are having problems. Our association, the Female Engineers and Architects Association, we are publishing a magazine, and from the revenue that we get from the publication, we provide scholarship to female architect students, so architecture students. So we also provide mentorship service. We help them find jobs. We share their CVs, and so in our sector, there are valuable companies who support our work, and I'd like to thank them one by one, because MÜKAD has generated a huge amount of sympathy, and I saw that there was a gap, and companies supported us basically. So we are moving forward very well. We aim to spread MÜKAD across the country. You know, we established the association in Antalya, but in Istanbul, we founded it in Ankara, but we have members in Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, Antalya. We have members from Canada and the United States, and we observe that many associations organize huge fairs and make big revenues. So we aim to empower ourselves, reach out to more female students, and we want to guide them for engineering departments as well. We go to the science high schools, and we also guide female students there for engineering departments. You know, even just they see us as concrete examples, you know, it helps them, it guides them towards engineering departments. So this is a primary target for us. You know, I always see the NGO works just like that. You know, instead of sitting down and whining about it, I thought what I could do. I cannot change the law, but I can organize in civic realm, and I can work actively. So that would give me a peace of mind, and I basically would be giving back to the society. So I care about the gender equality. There is the demand for engineering among female students. You know, women among mechanical engineers are less than 10%. Yes, but there is now a recent demand. The determination of the individuals and the work of NGOs are not going to be enough. So this issue should be supported by the state. You know, there is, you know, the birth leaves, for example, that looks like an advantage for a woman. But long-term birth leaves, this basically discourages the employer for women employment. So in the West, this birth leave is distributed to men and women equally. Yes, women would need more, but you know, sometimes we take like 1 year, 2 years leave, but it should be, you know, the responsibility should be equally shared. A father who deals with his children would have better empathy for his wife, and we would have healthier families. So this miscommunication, you know, the women have the overwhelming part of the responsibility. So for this to be shared equally, state should take measures to promote that. That is how I think. Absolutely. Selen, you know, you have been working with national and international NGOs, and you are an activist. So can you talk about what is being done to attract female students to that sector and promote visibility of women in the sector? First of all, you know, I'm a member of advisory board. One of them is TWRE. We have 1,300 members now. The other one is TWRE. It's a Canada-based international organization, and they are in Turkey, Middle East, and Turkic republics. They're in expansion in this region. So this WIRE, the Canada-based one, is very strong, but it is very fresh in Turkey. So we're going to launch our activities through some collaborative activities. So we are at the planning phase now. So we would like to transfer the know-how from Canada to here because they have an established system and they have the experience. And we also would like to promote a strong international network of communication for Turkish women in the sector. The world is a little too interconnected to stay out of. So we can and should do certain things at the global level. And I also believe, sometimes we are having problems and issues in terms of visibility, but we can be visible through international networks as well. And this visibility returns to Turkey. And this is how you get, is it just like that? Kind of, yes. It might have to be like. And this TWRE, it was established in 2018. There is a good team, and we have successful, strong women, and they are open to collaboration. And in the last 2 years, we have been running a great project. So there is a mentorship program that we call Woman to Woman. We receive applications of mentor and mentee, and this project is going to be useful. There's this green cows, we provide green training, and especially in the presence of COVID, online communication came to the fore, but it gave us opportunity to introduce ourselves to women about what we do. And there are certain efforts have been spent to increase the know-how of women. Enise, I'm going to ask you a similar question. You said you get together with public authorities, local authorities, and this is a behavior pattern. Does this scare your young colleagues? What is the most discouraging attitude that you receive from them? How do you motivate them and encourage them? I'm talking about the young colleagues. So most of my colleagues are women because of the population of the landscape architecture. Most landscape architectures are, they're women, and, we feel like we're fighting like Amazon women. And about public authorities, I discovered something recent. As I am a part of this TWRE, this NGO is under energy and construction, and landscape is under construction. So what I'm trying to do is that this landscape architecture is, we have a small share of the architecture pie. So through interdisciplinary cooperation, I'd like to underline our position and our work, and this would create a difference. So this would also contribute to the sector that I am a part of, and a dialogue with engineers and architects would be inspiring. And I believe this is my responsibility to increase the dialogue between the women in different disciplines and sectors. And needless to say, most of the time, my colleagues, if they receive the message, they do. That would be my biggest contribution.
Well, I do believe that the green landscape has a double effect for the landscape architecture. First of all, we spoke about the public places. They are much more visible. Using the renewable energy in those fields will contribute to the savings and to the planet, and it will create an awareness, because when you are using those renewable energy resources in much more visible areas like the public places, they will be encouraged. So this responsible approach and aesthetics understanding of the woman, I do believe, will create a double win situation, and I do believe the woman impact will be quite productive in that regard. And what kind of an additional value you can create in order to make women much more visible in the sector? Well, the landscape architecture is just like the exhibition area of the sector. It is much more visible, and it is actually a field where you can convey your message much more faster. So it is actually an area, a tool, which can make the renewable energy visible. But it is also an area which might be abused as well. In what respect did you say that? I mean, when you take a look to the arrangements in the public sites in terms of the landscape architecture, they are not sustainable. They are consuming a lot of water. They need maintenance all the time, and they are not contributing to the ecosystem of the city. It might be an important, exhibition, but it is, as I define it, the plastic visuals. There are ecological ways of doing it. So we should change this aesthetics and choose something else. That's what I have been fighting for. Energy is like a subtitle of it, and this cooperation between these two sectors excites me a lot, and I do believe at the end of the day, we women can do it. Well, I also would like to approach to this situation from the perspective of an economist journalist, because I have realized that the romantic terms like sustainability and gender equality is still shaped by the company owners, and we should be explaining to them that you will make money out of it, because when you explain that, then they will realize that they will make money out of it, and this philosophy of employing women will bring along sustainability and extra profits can create the real difference. That's why, Ms. Züleyha, I would like to ask you the question. In order to break down the glass ceilings of the woman, what kind of steps should be taken? Do you think we should make the success stories of the woman much more visible? As we are approaching to the end of our session, I am trying to actually wrap up the session. Well, what kind of steps do you think should be taken so that the woman will be much more visible, but at the same time it will bring along additional profits to the company owners? Well, you are totally right. I mean, since this issue, the woman employment, has an economic aspect of it, we should make woman employment much more appealing for the employers, and also both sides should be enthusiastic about it. Of course, we have spoken about glass ceilings, but women in themselves have glass ceilings. They are not applying for certain positions, and I mean, as women, we sometimes have this prejudgments that we may not be able to accomplish many responsibilities at the same time. Well, many of my colleagues and my friends had to break their own glass ceilings and the glass ceilings of the companies, and they had to, terminate their careers. Either due to becoming mother, or sometimes they try to found their own business. Sometimes they stop working for the companies. But those women were very successful people who contributed a lot to their companies. If those obstacles and barriers didn't pop up in front of their careers, I definitely believe that their contributions would have been even higher. When we say that the Turkish people are going abroad, it is actually the brain drain for the Republic of Turkey, but it is also translating into the monetary losses for the companies, because experiences are not obtained easily. The wisdom doesn't fall from the tree. That's why those people were really important. I mean, when the company owners are taking a decision for promotion, it is obvious that the woman deserved it, but they are choosing less experienced, latecomer men candidate for the promotion. And in that regard, the motivation of the woman for working in that environment is totally lost. Even if they stay in their working environment, their motivations are really damaged, and they sometimes, quit their jobs. That's why we should be, cracking our glass ceilings, and we should be pushing for more. But as you know, the ladies are always struggling for their career, starting from the family life. We shouldn't give up from fighting, and the new generation institutions definitely approach to this issue from a totally different perspective. Especially institutionalized companies are attaching significant importance to such issues, the trainings of the ladies as well. And there are even, measurements. There are professional companies who are, measuring the gender equality. And throughout such trainings, I have also observed, as being a part of the Gender Equality Society, we have carried out many studies with regards to gender equality. And when I had a chance to speak with a manager of a company, I understood that they hold many trainings in Europe. And after those trainings, they realized that the woman employment rate in those companies increased. We were, going to invite them to Turkey, but unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, it didn't happen. Hopefully, it will succeed. Well, as the technology use increases and the technology grasps our lives, do you think that it will be an additional value for further women employment? Well, after the digitalization, the differences based on the gender is already in decrease. And I can say that the digital world is providing certain advantages for the woman. Of course, throughout the pandemic and outbreak, we have the new normal and certain changing habits, and we have understood that we can solve our problems from our home office without going to the site. And I think that this will increase the woman employment. And I presume there will be certain companies who will definitely empty their offices, and they will work home office. Most probably with the digitalization, the gender differences and the gender gap will be much more closed. So, I mean, the companies will say that, if I work home office, I can, employ women without any discrimination. Thank you so much. I would like to continue with Ms. Enise. Well, I have no idea how much artificial intelligence and the digital world is involved in landscape architecture, but do you think that this digitalization can be an advantage, and how do you think we should use digital technology in order to boost the women employment? I totally agree with Ms. Züleyha, because pandemic can really create a positive impact for increasing the women employment. But when we take a look to the social media reality, what I observe is that women do not share their lives in the social media. I mean, due to the fact that they don't have many time. But I mean, we are not approaching this issue for creating economic benefit, but we are not, living lives like the influencers. So we cannot be role models for the young people. And I do believe we should be making use of those communication channels much more effectively. So as the journalist, Ms. Yasemin, you have most probably a higher level of responsibility. Well, many things, start inside of the family, but, many children set forth their targets after seeing from their family. So I do believe our impact on the social media is quite marginal. That's what I do believe. You are totally right. Throughout the outbreak, during my face-to-face interviews and my Zoom interviews, I had an observation. I mean, the companies who do not need cameramen started employing them, because as the sales started to take place in the online media, the companies try to present the visuals of every teeny tiny parts of their companies to their target groups. Well, even in the meetings that I actually went together with my cameraman, I also see that the cameraman was present on my counterpart. And when I asked for the reason, they said that the visuals are everything right now, and they have to present and convey their messages through different ways. And most probably, I do believe the women entrepreneurs should benefit from those techniques. And as you said, the visibility of in the social media should be the thing that we should be focusing on. Of course, we have to update ourselves in terms of our communication skills in the social media. Well, Ms. Selen, most probably the NGOs, do you think that they should speak about more their activities? You are in touch with women entrepreneurs. Maybe we can make their voices heard, and in that regard, extra activities might be carried out. What do you think? So at the end of the day, we have to change something by making use of the probabilities and opportunities created by the pandemic. Yes, we can turn the crisis into opportunity, and I do believe that is exactly what we are doing right now as the women platforms in the energy sector. But in addition to those bodies and enterprises, and personally, we should be sharing our activities in the social media. I have been doing this, and sometimes I even think whether I am doing a lot of it. Well, people are much more humble. They don't, want to be much more visible, so they are afraid whether they will have a negative impact or not. But they should share their success stories, because it will encourage other women, and young women will see us as a role model, and they'll think that I can do it as well. With regards to the visibility of the woman in the business world, I'd like to make a comment, because what we see in the social media is also observed in the real life. Although they are not in front side, we see that women are more goal-oriented. They have a more systematic approach, and they can focus on their careers. But as they are dealing with all those stuff, they might lose all their energies for expressing themselves. They lose lots of energy, and they have responsibilities in their private lives, inside of their homes, and that's why they are not sharing their success stories in the social media. And Miss Oya spoke about it as well. So rather than promoting women, the employers are promoting men managers who can market themselves better, although they are least experienced. So the woman can really having the back of the men who are not as experienced as they are. So as we have the chance of using social media throughout the pandemic, we should make the most of it, because we don't have to travel. We can share our success stories from just one click. So rather than spending all of our time through travel, we can use the social media, and we have to benefit from it. So we should be making all of our success stories visible. Perfect. We are adjourning our session. Well, I would like to adjourn the session after receiving one message from each one of you. We have to be much more visible in this sector because, Ms. Züleyha, we have to be much more visible in this sector because we deserve it. Women are more detail-oriented, more loyal, more hardworking, more meticulous, more trustworthy. The bank representative said to me that we prefer women entrepreneurs because they are loyal to their debts, so their credibility is better. This is what we have observed, he said. So there are many positive features that the women have. That's why we should be much more visible, and we should never give up. Miss Selen. So I would like to conclude as follows. As women, we are not asking for positive discrimination. We don't want any discrimination at all. So we have experience and skill set, and we do nice things, and they should be much more visible. So they don't have to positively discriminate the woman. So I only want them not to be obstacles. So it's just like this Turkish saying, as long as you are not actually presenting any barrier, it will be more than enough. So we should be much more visible as women in this sector, because as women, we should be much more visible in the sector because the future of our world and our children needs it. Perfect. Well, I do believe that we were very visible as possible as we could today, with all of our sincerity. Hopefully this will be the case for the future, and we do believe that we will contribute a lot to the sector. And we are not asking for any discrimination. What we ask for is to take what we deserve and to reach out to the positions that we deserve and materialize our dreams. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a wonderful and very informing session. I would like to congratulate all of you. Hope to see you again. Thank you so much. It was a very enjoying session. Have a nice evening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.